like to welcome you to Boy Meets Wellness, a podcast that discusses the complexities, celebrations, and challenges of building a wellness ritual as a BOI, a person who is born obviously incredible. You are now listening to Boy Meets Wellness with poet, motivational speaker, and wellness lover, Evolve Benton.
BOI, born obviously incredible, especially when you wear it pretty.
All right. Well, Shiv, welcome to Boy Meets Wellness. It is an honor to have you here in the space, to have you a part of our journey. And, folks who are listening, right? Shiv and I work together in Speaking for Profit. But also, Shiv, you've been doing amazing work in the Bay Area and met my partner first. So have been in my life without me knowing you were in my life for a while. So tell the audience, who are you, right? Where are you from? Where are you living now? And what brings you joy? We always like to start off with that question.
Okay. My name is Shivani. People call me Shiv and I love it. I am a non-binary South Asian person. Grew up in Southern California in the suburbs and moved to Berkeley for school. And now I am still here in the Bay. But, it came with, I haven't been here since school, so it's come with its roller coasters. And the roller coaster is kind of what brought me to this work. But, more than the roller coaster, it goes back lifetimes. And what brings me joy is recently it's been being with the farm at Soulflower Farm in El Sobrante in the Bay Area. Maya Blow is an amazing and beautiful spirit and person, and I just love. I'm not gonna leave until she forces me to leave this farm. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. One day of a week we go and learn from her, and I absolutely love it. We made hydrosols and tinctures and medicine, and it feels so good. So that's what brings me joy.
That's beautiful. And I've had an opportunity to go to that farm. I would say that Maya is beautiful as a person, beautiful as a being. And the farm itself is just such an oasis, right? That's the way I can really describe it. The energy there. And I went just for a day. Well, 2, because we did a cannabis growing class there, and it was really cool to learn from her and Anima, which was there as well. And it was just, I think that one thing that I didn't appreciate before I went to that space was going on land that folks who look like us own. Right? I feel like before I've been to farms, I've been to zoos, we've been to these places, right, in school. But it's different. We have a different way of nurturing it. So I'm so excited that you're going to be there and that you're working and cultivating some of your medicine in that space. I think it's going to be really cool. So you mentioned your work, right? And the roller coaster of the work. Can you tell folks a little bit about, who do you serve? What do you do? And what is death work, right? Because I think that it could be scary for people when they first hear it.
Yeah, I like how scary it can be. I chose it for a reason. I could have said something like life transition work or something, but it's like, no, that's what it is. It's death work. And I love the reality of it, and I love the honesty of it, and the way it just kind of speaks right to the point. And I think my whole life I've been doing this, but very recently have I had the language to realize it. And death work is birth work, and in the way that it's about bringing awareness and bringing back the sacredness and remembering the sacredness of what it means to be alive. And so when we're doing death work, it sounds like only for folks who are dying, and that's part of it. But also we move through many deaths through our whole lives. We lose a job, or we get a new home, or we lose a pet, or we lose a part of ourselves, or we leave a relationship, All of those are versions of ourselves dying and being reborn. And so the work that I do is to support other people and myself in cultivating, remembering, and nurturing and honoring the sacredness, the beauty, and the medicine that happens in transition. A lot of times, our feelings and our awareness and everything is just at a higher level. You know, like we're going through so much at that time, we're feeling so much is happening, and oftentimes that can be seen as a negative. But I like to hold it and see it and honor it in a way that it can teach us about what it means to be human. The fullness of that experience, the scariness of that experience, the beauty of that experience, the love of that experience. And death work is, in essence, grief work. And grief, for me, is love. Deeper our love, deeper our grief. The fuller our love, the fuller our grief. And it's like a coin with two sides. When we decide to love, what we love one day will be gone. Whether we go or what we love goes, we don't know. But when I hold grief as love, and it's not just me, I've learned this from many people, many folks who've been writing, many people who've been doing this way longer than I have. So like, it's not something that I don't like speaking of it in an isolated way. Is people who've been doing this our whole, like, since the ancient times.
And you've kind of like been invited into that tradition of the work, right? Like, so how do you, number one, I love you. So thank you. because, because I'm at the point now where I can experience grief and death in this way that you say, this beautiful way. But I've been through journeys where I'm like, fuck a grief counselor. And there's nothing beautiful about this, right? Like this is horrible. I hate the way it feels. And I imagine that some of our listeners are there too, right? Especially when you're in the beginning of grief, right? When you just have lost something, whether it's a person, a job, a relationship, like you said, so many losses. How do you combat that when it comes to your clients? Like, how do you support them through some of that ugly, right? That comes out when people are not on that other side, as we just talked about.
Well, I like to challenge it. I don't think there is the other side. I think both sides are always present. And maybe it's not even both sides. It's just one, like, it's not this and that. It's not the beauty and ugly. Where we are and who we are in our breath. And if the ugly is the truth in the moment, then the ugly is the beauty. Like, there's no, the ugly is not wrong, the beauty's not right, the beauty's not wrong, the ugly's not right. Like, it's not, and I think that's what I love about it. Yesterday I was speaking to somebody, and they, death is on the horizon. And they sounded really tired. And they didn't want to talk to me. And it's like, that's fine. That's fine. But when we can honor where we are, when we can be where we are and see the ugly, name the ugly, laugh about the ugly, right? Then something happens. When we can call ourselves out, when we can say, right, you really think you're the only person who's been through this? Like, yes, you are the only person who's been through this in your body. But our people have been dealing with grief beyond what we know. And that wisdom is in us. And so for me, holding both of, you really think I'm the only one going through this, right? There's people who've done this before, who found their way in this before, and yet there's only me. I'm the only me ever. I'm the only me with my kind of grief ever. And both are true.
Mm.
So a lot of death work and a lot of reckoning with the ugly and reckoning with the parts that don't want to talk to anybody and want to shut down and want to go to Dave and Buster's, whatever it is. Like the allowing ourselves to be in the experience.
It's the medicine.
It's the medicine because that's the part, like the duality of life. Like when we're dealing with grief, the duality of life, like life and death, like black and white, ugly, beauty, all of that comes to the forefront. And when it comes to the forefront, we're given an opportunity. We're given an opportunity to see that it's the same.
And almost see it come together in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think about that a lot, Shiv, when I've experienced death of loved ones, how, before they pass, they have all these conversations with people, and it's almost like a returning a lot of like their younger self. Like I remember when my grandmother passed, she was saying that she seen her mama and she was going with her mama to do all this stuff, and her mama had been gone years. But she was
Mm-hmm.
like, it was almost like she was a child again, and how much she loved her mother in that moment. Not saying that she didn't throughout the years, but it was something very childlike. So for
Mm-hmm.
you, tell us a little bit about your journey into the work, right? Because on Boy Meets Wellness, we like to give roadmaps for people who might be listening to this and being like, you know what, I know that I've always had this medicine, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
what I have found is we have people in all of our families who
Mm-hmm.
are the death workers, usually, right? Who are the folks who are doing that healing. And even if we don't have family of blood, family of choice in our communities, right? How did you get into the work, and how do other folks who might be interested get into this as a consultant, as a healer?
Yeah, you're right. At one point in our lives, we will all be death workers. That's how I believe it. Because whether for ourselves or for somebody else, and that medicine is in all of us, and that's what I love about it. Is because part of my role is to just help people remember that in themselves. Um, and that's what I've done for myself my whole life, and that's how I've come to the work. I've struggled with my mental health for a long time, and in 2019, I hospitalized myself for suicide. So it was voluntary, and that changed me forever. I died, parts of myself died, and I remembered what it means to be Shivani again a little bit every day, again and again and again. And all that to say is that I've danced in the dark for a long time, as long as a little 26-old person can say. You know, I I'm kind of weird like that. I've been in the dark, and I've really camped out there in ways that have been good and not good. And people say sit with your feelings and stuff, but I really made camp. I really set up a whole situation, and that's what I needed at the time. And in the dark, I learned a lot. And in the dark, it was really clear. Spirit, said that this isn't for naught. This isn't for nothing. These waves, this roller coaster, this confusion, this darkness isn't just it's just not for nothing. And I didn't understand what that meant until I started my recovery. I was able to see more clearly, and everything reminded me, every moment, every gust of wind, every person who I looked in the eyes reminded me that this life is going to end. And at one point, I really wanted it to. And now I know it will. And before I couldn't see how special it was. And now that's all I can see. And that's how I got to that. And I mean, it's every day. It'll be for the rest of my life, my recovery, because I really do believe that that resistance to life is ancestral. Like that comes from somewhere else. It's a lot of, and then I think that's the other part too, is a lot of death work is ancestral work. We're moving through things and healing through things, not just for ourselves, but for the people who came before us and for the people who are yet to come. And it's bigger than we can understand. And a lot of times it just looks so simple. Sitting on the floor, laying on the ground, crying, with a cup of tea and a teddy bear, going out to dance. That's what it might look like. But it's bigger than we can know. And I like that. I don't want to know how big it is. That sounds like a lot of pressure.
That sounds like too much work to me.
Yeah, too much. But it's happening. And to know it's happening, but to be in the life and enjoy the life. That's my task. And it's hard, but I'm trying.
And you're doing a great job. So let's talk about clients, right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about clients. Like, who do you really enjoy working with? And who are you like, it's okay. We don't have to work together. Because that's the real, right? Like, we always have our ideal clients, and then we have people who might be just a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. That's a good question. I like to work with people who, honestly, if someone comes to me, it's because they feel ready. That person has to have that yes in themselves. When I can feel that they don't, then it feels like it's my job to make that yes happen, and that's not my job. They have to decide for themselves that this is what they want. And yeah, I love to work with Black and Brown people. We reckon dance with grief in ways that are very, very particular. And that's where my heart is. That's the kind of darkness that I understand. And I think there's also, because I'm non-binary and queer, like I also really think that death and queerness is its own party. It's its own thing. And so a lot of times I find myself working with queer, trans, Black and Brown folks. And there's nowhere else I'd rather be, because that dance of grief is, it's just very particular. And I think there's a lot of people like me who have tried to seek support from the mainstream systems of wellness, and then this white woman tells me what to do, and I'm like, the fuck? I don't want to do that. That doesn't make any sense to me. And so I really want to be able to push back against that and join the people who have been pushing back against that for some time now.
I love that. I love that you're very particular about who you work with. And I love that you describe the work as a dance, right? Even from the beginning, saying, right, like they have to consent to that yes for themselves. And that's a part of dancing, right? You get on the floor and you could be by yourself in the corner, but if you want to come together with someone else, there's a certain amount of consent that happens in that moment. So if folks want to work with you, what does that look like? What does it look like to work with a death worker? Like, what is the experience? Give us a little bit of like a peep into one of your sessions.
Well, it's very different for everybody. A lot of my work has been through Zoom right now because of the pandemic. And that's not ideal. I would love to meet with people in person, and I'm actually slowly starting to do that a little bit by little bit. And I love it. because I started in the pandemic, and so to see that I can do this like in real person, it's like, oh, I'm actually doing this. Like it feels good, like I'm
I'm
actually,
not just in a computer. I can actually do
yeah,
it with real human beings.
it feels so good. Feels so good. But a session, there's a lot of meditation, um, journeying, reflection, writing. Sometimes folks want to bring another person in. Sometimes they want to be by themselves. Sometimes every day is kind of different. Every session, one session with them might look like this, and another session with them next week might look different. Sometimes it's more logistical, really creating ritual and ceremony. And what does that look like? What do you need to plan? What do you need? Sometimes it is just showing up for the ceremony. Do a lot of womb work because I'm also a birth worker. So I learned from my Teresa ceremony called Bajo, and it's
Beautiful.
beautiful. Yes. Yes. So that's sometimes it looks like that. It just it looks what the person needs it to look like and the structure I need to function. So like yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does. It does. And what I love about you is that you customize your experience in your work, right? I know a lot of folks who do grief counseling, and there's one template that they go through for every person that they work with, right? And I feel like that's a disservice to the work, to the experience, even to the ancestors that are a part of that moment, to have that type of like copy and paste type of experience. And I think what you're doing is so fruitful because you're meeting that person at where they're at, right? Like you said, it could be logistical, it could be ritual, it could just be a bunch of meditation and crying. And that's still the work.
Peace, family. I want to give you a gift. The guided meditation for wealth is an opportunity for you to start building wealth and growing your income and having a better relationship with money. When I put this meditation together, I was struggling. I was really sitting in some scarcity. And to be honest with you, that still happens to me to this day. This meditation gives you an opportunity to practice and break through that every day. It also gives you an opportunity to move past some of the negative thoughts that you might have around abundance and money. So I'm going to leave the link to this in the show notes or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube so that you can get into the guided meditation for wealth for free. I want you to listen to this at least twice a day and give yourself an opportunity to build a better relationship with money.
So what do you enjoy about it? Like what do you enjoy about the work that you're able to do with your clients?
Everything. The parts that okay, I enjoy being able to see somebody and to see the parts of myself that I'm scared to reckon with still, to see that in them, to see the parts of myself that I love, to see that in them. I love the quiet. I think a lot of the work is quiet. Some people imagine grief counseling or something, tuck, 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 tuck. And it's like, sure, but that's also a very Western way. The body moves through emotions and blood. The blood is moving, and sometimes we just have to let the blood move, And I think a lot of people resist the quiet and the silent where things are trying to sort themselves out. But I think because of the resistance, I love it because so much happens in it.
I love that quiet. Yes, I love the quiet too. Sometimes I run from it, though, I have to admit.
Oh, me too.
I'm not going to act like I'm just the one who just could just be quiet. I got talked too much in school quite a lot. So
yeah.
But I do enjoy it when I'm able to get into it, right? And actually, it kind of reminds me, the quiet reminds me some time of medicine, right? Like I feel like medicine, not even like just, dime a tap or something you take over, but even like herbs. It's things that you have it might be bitter at the beginning and you're like, this is and you have it again and you're like, this is actually pretty good. And then when you really get into it, you're like, this is not only good, but you get to see the byproduct of how it makes you feel. That's the same way I feel about the quiet. It's like you get into it, it's like you're jittery. It's like, I don't want to be here. And then as soon as you like actually get into it, you realize how much you were missing. That's what I always experience for myself. So Shiv, this is such a powerful conversation. I got to bring you back so we can talk a little bit more about death work. But I want to transition a little bit before we go into our final segment, which is fun. It's called Boy Talk and Hop. Yes. Entrepreneurs, right, experience grief all the time, right? I'm on calls with entrepreneurs, as you know, weekly, right? Talking about, I got a gig. I didn't get a gig. I want to do this in my business. I don't want to do this in my business anymore, right? It's a lot of birth and death, and sometimes very quickly. Sometimes I feel like we don't even give ourselves enough time for the ceremony or the ritual in between before we're just like, I'm done with that thing. And you just held an amazing meditation for our group. So I want to thank you for that as well. Thank you for coming in and holding space for us. Like that was so powerful, especially CEOs to get that time to restore, right? Like I know people got so much out of it. I know you can't give us everything, right? Because if people want everything, they got to sign up with you. But what are some what are some tips that you would give entrepreneurs around projects that they may have to grieve, relationships that they may have to end, right? That are no longer serving them? What tips can you give for them to navigate that a little bit more easily?
Yeah. The quiet you were talking about that feels hard. A lot of times when in the quiet and in the parts that feel like the struggle, we feel like, oh, I'm going to sit here on this rock and be quiet and find my way through this and get through the struggle. But like a lot of times we need support to get through the quiet and to get through the struggle. And I think for me, that would be my number one. I mean, reaching out to somebody, to spirit, to the plants, to a loved one, someone you don't know, professional, like really remembering that you're not alone in it and that whatever is happening, like whether it's business related or personal related, like remembering that it's not just yours. Sometimes it feels like it's just ours, but it's not. Especially when we're doing our work as CEOs is in service to others. If we're in service to others, we have to allow that in too. Like that's the only way we know. And I think that would be my number one tip, honestly. Because with that person, with spirit, with whoever you reach out to, with whatever help you get, you can create something that you couldn't create before just by yourself.
I love that, Shiv. I love that because so many CEOs, right, we create in these incubators by ourselves, right? Like we might have business partners, we might have even people that are working with us, contractors. But when it comes down to it, especially when it's your baby, right? Like you feel like you have to do so much. So I love bringing in folks and bringing in community. Thank you for that. So let's get into Boy Talk and Hop. This is a fun part of the show and it's a game. So I'm going to give you some statements and I want you to fill in the blank, right? I'll give you a statement. You give me a word. Don't think a lot about it. And, have fun with it. We just want to see how that brain of yours kind of works sporadically. Sound good?
Okay.
Okay, great. So my first thing is love is.
So it has to be fast.
Okay, let me get back to the rules. Okay. You're gonna fill in the blank, preferably fast. It doesn't have to be like, it's not a competition of 30, 40 seconds, but we want our listeners to enjoy it, right? So fast, it's up to its perspective, but I do want you to do it quickly. Let's not say fast, quickly. Yes. So love is.
I don't know.
don't know what love is? Come on. Come on. Give us. You just said love is grief in the beginning.
It's too big.
Okay, it's too big. Love is too big. Okay, great. Money is.
Confusing.
My favorite food is.
Fantastic.
If I could speak to anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and what would y'all do?
I would speak to Frida Kahlo and we would paint.
What would y'all paint?
Me.
Yes, Shiv. Yes, yes. Wellness is.
Vital.
Family is.
Unique.
My favorite book is.
I have so many favorite books. 40 Rules of Love by Alif Shafak.
I love it. What's that about? Tell us a little bit about it.
It's the relationship of Rumi and Shams.
I have to check that one out. Mm-hmm. My favorite song is
The Birds. Does that count?
It counts. It definitely counts. Death is
inevitable.
Life is
a choice.
And last but never least, Shiv is
growing.
Yes, you are, my dear. Oh, it's so good to have you on the show. This was such a good conversation. I don't think we've ever really talked about this in this way, which is really cool. I think this is going to be something really, I'm tired of thinking I'm a no now. I know this is going to be something really promising and really healing for our audience. So how can folks support your work? How can they connect with you if they want to be able to do some healing work with you? Please tell us. And what do you got going on next? What are ways we can support and elevate it?
Folks can support me by I'm starting to make medicine, and I'm starting to make like herbal medicine, and I'm starting to make it by just charging for shipping. Just because I'm still in the beginning of creating my relationships with the plants, and I want to honor that. But I am welcoming any support if anybody wants to offer it, because the cost of supplies is present. So right now that's present, that's coming up, making a lot of medicine, wanting to share it, wanting to honor the plants, also honor myself. And then maybe later, as the relationship builds and the consent happens with the plants, I can start charging different things. But for now, it's really just love and support, and asking for support and offering that support through the medicine. So that's like a big for me. And if the people would like to connect with me, I have a Calendly. There's different options. I can come talk to your workplace about grief, because we're all grieving and nobody at work wants to talk about it. Or I could come to your organization, nonprofits. The grief nonprofits deal with is kind of ridiculous. So we could do something with the organization. We could do one-on-one sessions with folks. We could do workshops, and then of course one-on-one sessions with people.
Beautiful, beautiful. We'll be sure, y'all, to put that into the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'll definitely put it in the description of this video. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see more amazing interviews like this one. Thank you so much, Shiv, for coming through, for holding us down, for holding space with us. And for folks who are interested, monthly, Shiv will be doing a meditation for CEOs at Speaking for Profit. So we'll be sure to drop the link for that as well. If you're a CEO, even if you're not a CEO of a business, you're a CEO of your life. That's what I want everybody who's listening to know. So come through, get the healing work, tap in. And afterwards, you can tap in more consistently with Shiv and be one of their amazing clients on a regular basis. Because I'm kind of thinking about it, Shiv. I'm like, I got some things moving right now. Once those things are done moving, there's some healing that needs to be done, if that makes sense. And, I'm not going to say it because this is public, but you know what I mean. There'll definitely be some work that I need to do. So I might need to go on and get on that Calendly and hold my spot. Because I know after people hear this, they're going to be taking all the spots. I need my spot. Don't take my spot.
Hello, this is Shivani. Shiv, I am born, obviously incredible.
Thanks for listening to Boy Meets Wellness. Stay connected on and off the show by following us online at Boy Meets Wellness. That's boy with an I. Until next time,